Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, welcome to the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board public hearing for Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. I'd like to open the hearing with the roll call vote, please. Vice Chair Astle.
Here.
Board Member Sarkisian.
Here.
Board Member Boyle.
Rock on.
Board Member Allen.
Here.
Board Member Villanueva Saucedo.
Here.
Board Member Crockett is absent. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started. I forgot to ask in our study session if there is a volunteer who would like to read our consent agenda today. Is there anyone who'd like to jump on that opportunity? Board Member Villanueva Saucedo, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You bet.
One thing I'd like to just discuss real quick before you get on to reading the consent agenda is that we have received a few comment cards on item 3A, which has already been pulled off the consent, but item 3B as well. So it's not being asked to be pulled from consent, but when you're through reading the consent agenda, I'll just read for the record what that public comment was. That's the direction that I got from staff.
So 3A is the only item that is being pulled off consent, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So having said that, feel free to start reading the consent agenda, please.
Items on the consent agenda. Item 2, approval of minutes from previous meetings, minutes from the April 22nd, 2020 study sessions and regular hearing. 3, take action on the following zoning cases. Item 3A, item 3B, ZON 20-00086, District 2, within the 4,400 blocks of East Greenway Road, South Side, and within the 400 block of South Greenfield Road, East Side, located on the southeast corner of Greenfield and Broadway Road. Site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a restaurant with a drive-through. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 3C, ZON 20-00102, District 2, within the 5,200 blocks of East Southern Avenue South Side, located east of Higley Road on the south side of Southern Avenue. Site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a medical office building. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 3D, ZON 20-00106, District 2, within the 0 to 200 blocks of North Val Vista Drive West Side, located north of Main Street on the west side of Val Vista Drive. Site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a self-storage facility with associated boat and RV storage. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 4A, ZON 20-00129, District 6, within the 10600 to 1100 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, South Side, within the 6000 to 6200 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, West Side, and within the 6000 to 6400 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, East Side, located south of Williamsfield Road on the east and west sides of Signal Butte Road. Minor general plan amendment to change the character type from neighborhoods to mixed-use activity. Staff recommendation continuance to May 27th, 2020. Item 4B, ZON 19-00805, District 6, within the 10600 to 1100 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, South Side, within the 6000 to 6200 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, West Side, and within the 6000 to 6400 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, East Side, located south of Williamsfield Road on the east and west sides of Signal Butte Road, rezoned from RS-N-9-PAD, RS6 PAD, RSL 2.5 PAD, RM2 PAD, and LC PAD to GC with a council use permit to allow 100% residential uses on the first floor within a general commercial zoning district and modification of the destination at Gateway PAD by removing 89 acres. This request will allow for mixed use development. Staff recommendation continuance to May 27th, 2020.
All right, thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Hold just
Or as read.
No, that's okay. No, thank you. Hold on just one second, please. I've got to read into the record real quick that comment card that we received on item 3B. The name of the individual was Charles Bonner of 4502 East Carroll, who indicated support of the request and wanted the following comment to be read. I believe that construction of the new Burger King restaurant on the southeast corner of Broadway and Greenfield will only add value to the neighborhood The Burger King restaurants always keep the inside and outside of their facilities very well maintained and extremely clean. This new franchise will also offer jobs to the locals who may desire one. So thank you. Board Member Sarkisian, could you go ahead and read your motion again, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda as read in.
Thank you.
I second that.
All in favor of approval of the consent agenda as read, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so the consent agenda passes. Now we'll move on to item 3A. This is case ZON 20-00037 in District 4, within the 500 block of East Broadway Road and within the 400 block of South Pioneer, located east of Mesa Drive on the south side of Broadway Road on 1 acre approximately. This is a site plan review request to allow for a commercial and multi-residence development. Charlotte Bridges is the staff planner. Would you like to give us a presentation, please?
Chair, board members, as Chairman Delkey said, this is a site plan review case. It's a request to allow the development of a commercial and multi-residence building at the southwest corner of Broadway and Pioneer. The case number is ZON 20-00037. And we refer to it as Pioneer Place. Once again, the project is located at the southwest corner of Broadway Road and Pioneer. It's important to note the split zoning district on the property. The north portion of the property is zoned LC, and the south portion of the property is zoned RM2. On the LC portion of the property, the site plan, the zoning ordinance does allow multiple residents if it meets the criteria of section 1131-331A of the Mesa zoning ordinance, and the project meets the criteria to allow multiple residential uses on the LC portion of the lot. And the RM2 portion of the lot, multiple residential units are allowed with maximum density of 15 dwelling units per acre. The general plan designates the character area for this property as neighborhood with the traditional subtype. As a part of that traditional side type, a variety of housing types are allowed, as well as commercial uses to support the neighborhood. The subject property is also located within the central Main Street area, and according to that plan, it envisions this area evolving over time to concentrate commercial uses towards the corners, but also to incorporate multiple residential uses into the property, into the area, and to improve the streetscape and connectivity of the area. The subject's plan complies with the requirements of the general plan and meets the criteria of Chapter 15 of the general plan. Once again, this is a site plan review for a building, for a multiple residence and commercial building at the southwest corner of Pioneer and Broadway. Looking at the site, the photo on your left is a photo of the property looking south towards the property from Broadway Road. And then the photo on the left, excuse me, did I get that backwards? The photo on the right is looking towards the property, towards the northwest, looking at the property, and you'll see that there is a large area of undeveloped property on the lot. Also important to note that the existing structures on the lot will be removed to accommodate the new development. Once again, the zoning for the property, the limited commercial zoning district is on the north portion of the property, and multiple residence District 2 is on the south portion of the property. The uses proposed for the property are allowed. Let me go back one slide. Just to also, back to this slide to just let you know what the adjacent uses are. To the north of the property, across Broadway Road, uses are commercial. Directly to the west, adjacent to the LC portion of the property, is an office development. Directly to the west, adjacent to the RM2 portion of the property, is property that is also zoned RM2. They are single family uses on that property today. To the south is a duplex on RM2 zone property. And then across Pioneer Road to the east is a parking facility for the adjacent church. The site plan for the property shows the construction of a 2-story, 16,000 square foot building. The office portion of the project is located at the north end of the building on the first and second floors. And then on the southern portion of the building are 9 dwelling units. There are 5 dwelling units on the ground floor of the building and 4 dwelling units on the second floor of the property, of the building. The site itself provides 22 parking spaces. Access to the property is provided from Broadway Road and also from Pioneer. On-site, private open spaces provided for each dwelling unit in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And also, common open space is provided in compliance with the zoning ordinance as well. It's important to note that this project was submitted prior to the adoption of the most current quality guidelines in February. And so this project was actually reviewed under the criteria from the previous zoning ordinance for building form and development standards. This is a slide of the landscape plan. It shows the landscaping improvements on the property. Perimeter landscaping is provided, foundation landscaping is provided, and parking lot landscaping is provided in compliance with the zoning ordinance. As far as citizen participation for this plan, the applicant held 2 public meetings with the neighborhood, or held 2 neighborhood meetings. The first meeting was held in December, and they had, I think, approximately 12 attendees. Per the citizen participation plan report and the summary in the staff report, it notes that most of the attendees were in opposition to the project, and those reports also outline the issues the neighbors had with the property. Fast forward to the end of April, the applicant held a meeting again, with a virtual meeting this time, with the adjacent neighborhood and property owners. And once again, the majority of the neighbors at that meeting were opposed to the project for the same reason as back in the earlier meeting in December. And once again, that is outlined in the citizen participation per report and then summarized in the staff report. The applicant did fulfill the requirements of the citizen participation of the zoning ordinance by mailing notification letters to property owners within 500 feet of the site, and also to registered homeowners association in neighborhoods within a mile of the site. The project also submitted a Board of Adjustment application for a DIP, a development incentive permit. The Board of Adjustment approved the DIP at the May 6th meeting just 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. The project also was reviewed by the Design Review Board. The Design Review Board did make recommendations for changes to the elevations and directed the applicant to work with staff to implement or to change the elevations per their recommendation. In summary, the project complies with the 2040 Mesa General Plan. The site plan meets the criteria for site plan review outlined in Chapter 69, subsection 5 of the Mesa zoning ordinance. And the project complies with the Mesa zoning ordinance, Chapter 31, subsection 31, for residential uses in the LC district. And then once again, the Board of Adjustment did approve the DIP request on May 6th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about this project.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of staff before we invite the applicant to present the case? Okay. All right, it looks like Mr. Applicant, Mr. Pugh, are you ready to give us a presentation, sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Be happy to do that. This is Ralph Pugh, the applicant in this site plan review case. First of all, I'd like to thank Charlotte for her thorough staff report and her analysis, the entire staff on this project. Madam Chair and members, I'd just like to remind all of you that this process that we've gone through is exactly what a property owner should do when there is a piece of property that is already zoned. You have one parcel in two different zoning districts, and it's located in an area of the city that has bypass properties and needs infill. When we looked at this property, that brought us to 3 procedural steps. Of course, the first step is to apply to the Board of Adjustment for a development incentive permit. Because without that incentive permit, development of an infill parcel like this is practically impossible, or at least extremely difficult. And so the Board of Adjustment thoroughly listened to this case. They listened to all of the neighborhood objections, most of which focused on issues that were not germane to the permit. Those objections focused on use of the property, which is already a question that has been asked and answered. The office uses and the apartment uses on this project are allowed under the zoning code. Other objections related to the height of the building. Building height in both the office and this RM2 district are allowed to be 2 stories. So after the Board of Adjustment considered what we would typically call deviations, right, from development standards in a PAD, they look at it in a much different light. They look at it, what incentives are necessary to motivate this property and this property owner to develop on this piece of land that has been bypassed for years. So that's how this all occurred, and that's why we come to you tonight with this application. The site plan that is in front of you complies in every respect with the terms of the development incentive permit. That's why you go to the Board of Adjustment first to review that. It, in essence, sets different development standards. This property is being developed not only under the City of Mesa zoning code, but under the permit that was issued by the Board of Adjustment to incentivize the development. Those issues related to setbacks, landscaping, parking, various different issues that were talked about, and the Board of Adjustment recommended, and frankly, they don't recommend, they approve unanimously that permit. So in summary, we urge you as the Planning and Zoning Board to approve the site plan. It fits the criteria. The staff has recommended approval to you. We listened carefully to the board, Design Review Board last night. There are items that we are working on and that we will present to the staff in response to those comments. And frankly, this property needs development. And there's some discussion about use in the neighborhood. Quite frankly, when you look at the exhibit that Ms. Bridges presented at the very beginning of this report, virtually 100% of the land south of this property on Pioneer and on adjoining streets both to the west and east, it is all multifamily RM2. There are single-family houses there, for sure, but the long-term zoning for this entire area is multifamily, and it should not be unexpected that this site would develop consistent with the zoning code. I would be happy, Madam Chair, to answer specific questions that you have. We urge your vote of approval on this site plan that complies in every respect with the code. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pugh? No questions at this time?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pugh. Any questions of staff? No questions of staff? Any comments?
When am I allowed to speak now about my issues with this?
Now would be your opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Under the review criteria that you shared with me at the beginning, it says the project shall be consistent with and conform to the adopted general plan. However, the adopted general plan states that when an area becomes too transient, it becomes a burden on the neighborhood. I don't know why this part of West Mesa gets all of the garbage in it, all the multifamily projects, all the things that seem like they're going to look great, and then 10 years from now get turned into regular apartments, get turned into low-income apartments, and further affect the schools and the neighborhoods in the area. I think the neighbors, those that opposed in the letters that I read, had a very good case to be made to say, why are you putting more of this stuff in our neighborhood? If we were to go back to the discussion we had quite a while ago about, let's see if I can find this. There was the map that we started putting together here that showed, there was a project that was happening here, and then they said, well, there aren't any other halfway houses or foster care or anything within the area, but there were several of them. The city just wasn't aware of them. And so it was adding more stuff to an area that already had it. Well, we're not far. We're down over here now with the same thing. I think we're adding a lot of transient, a lot of challenging things for neighborhoods that it's taking away from the residential feel of the neighborhood by putting this multifamily here. I don't think that we are supporting our schools. I don't think we're supporting the residents of the neighborhood when they do that. Site-wise, the thing that concerns me the most is that if you look at the neighborhood, if you go back to the map, most of the houses there have a generous front yard that they're allowed to, as they should. This puts the building 10 feet. That setback on the side of the street is just 10 feet. I think that's irresponsible. It's going to have this gigantic blocky beige building sitting there right next to the street. And I don't think that conforms with the quality that we look for when we give it a dip. So I feel that the scale, massing, this is number 2 in the review criteria, the design, scale, massing, site plan, exterior design, and landscaping does not enhance the features of the project site and the surrounding built environment. It says, furthermore, I don't feel like it adds to the streetscape and the street frontages, making them more attractive. Mesa is trying to grow up. Mesa is a city of 500,000 people now. But one more beige, blocky building that's way oversized for its site is not going to make Mesa the place that we want it to be.
Okay. Board Member Boyle, so specific to the criteria for site plan review, I'm not trying to paraphrase or what, I just want to make sure. So it appears that you're saying it doesn't meet criteria A and perhaps D?
If I look on my review criteria that I have here, it would be 1, 2, 5, and 8. 1 is consistent to and conform with the general plan. I do not feel like it does. Number 2, the overall design, including its scale, massing, site plan, exterior design, and landscape, it enhances the appearance and features. It does not. The project is compatible with the neighborhood developing by avoiding big differences in building scale and character between developments on adjoining lots. Absolutely does not do that. The street frontages are attractive and interesting for pedestrians, provide greater safety by allowing for surveillance of the street by people inside the buildings and elsewhere. That 10-foot setback does not conform with that part of the review criteria.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask maybe the staff to respond, are there any other board members that wanted to either react to these comments or provide any of their feelings on if this project meets the review criteria or not with respect to a site plan review? So I think I'd like to ask the staff, maybe if you could give us a little bit more detail on your analysis of how the project met the review criteria would be most appreciative if you could do that for us.
Oh, go ahead. That's your case.
Okay, so I'm going to refer to Chapter 69 of the Mesa zoning ordinance. It's important to note that, once again, the use is allowed at this, the residential use and commercial use is allowed in the zoning districts for this property. The zoning districts are a reflection of the general plan. The general plan supports these uses, and then and the designated zoning districts for the property. As far as the review criteria from the Mesa zoning ordinance, first criteria is the project is consistent and conforms with the adopted general plan and any applicable sub-areas and neighborhood area plans, and is consistent with the development standards of the ordinance and the specific conditions, and the zoning on the property. So staff believes it does conform with the general plan, the development incentive plan by the development incentive permit approved by the Board of Adjustment, modified the development standards, but essentially, and because of that, it conforms with the development standards of the ordinance, and the project is consistent with the zoning on the property. The overall, number 2 is the overall design of the project, including its scale, massing, site plan, exterior design, landscaping will enhance the appearance of the appearance and features of the property and the surrounding natural and built environment. I'm going to pull up my presentation and go back to the existing site photos. Oh, excuse me, that's the wrong one. These are photos of the existing height, so staff believes that this project will enhance the surrounding neighborhood and the built environment. Excuse me. Number 3, the project site plan is appropriate to the function of the project and provides suitable environment for the occupants and visitors and general community. Staff believes it's in support of this review criteria. The project meets the uses are allowed in this zoning district. And once again, the DIP approved the development standards or supported the development standards proposed for the applicant for this property. And the overall site plan, we believe the overall site plan complies with this criteria. Number 4, project details, colors, materials, and landscaping are internally consistent, fully integrated with one another, and used in a manner that is visually consistent with the proposed architectural design. So once again, this project was reviewed by the Design Review Board. They did make some recommendations for changes to the exterior of the building, and staff will work with the applicant to implement those changes, thus meeting that criteria number 4. Number 5, the project is compatible with the neighboring environment by avoiding big differences in building scale and character between developments on adjoining lots in the same zoning district, and providing harmonious transition in scale and character between different districts. Staff believes siting this property at the corner of a major arterial, and that is an appropriate location for a 2-story building as we transition from that area into a single-family district. Also, the 2-story building is allowed in the RM2 district and also in the LC district. Number 6, the project contributes to the creation of a visually interesting built environment with a variety of building styles and design, well-articulated structures, well-designed building facades, promoting compatibility of neighboring uses within the same or different districts. So staff, once again, believes the proposed development meets that criteria. It's providing the streetscape, it's providing perimeter landscaping, it's providing buffering with the landscaping between this development and the adjacent uses. So staff believes it's also in conformance with that review criteria.
I didn't have issues with all of them, but 8 was the other one that I felt did not apply. on the review criteria.
So go down to number 8. Okay. Street frontages are attractive and interesting for pedestrians and provide a greater variety, allowing for surveillance of the street by people inside the building and elsewhere. So once again, this is the existing property, and staff believes that the improvements proposed with this project will provide an attractive and interesting building for pedestrians. It's going to increase the connectivity in the neighborhood. It's going to provide landscaping around the perimeter and adjacent to the streets. And so staff believes that it will meet that criteria number 8 of the site plan review section of the ordinance. Are there other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot by making you read through those, but I think it's important to know, how you analyze this and how you looked at the review criteria against the request. So sorry to surprise you with it, but I appreciate you running through those.
Michelle, can I make some comments about that, or what do you
Yes.
want to happen next?
Go ahead.
Okay, again, review criteria 1, the project shall be consistent with and conform to the adopted general plan. And if you read the adopted general plan, it says on page 4-1, when the neighborhood population is largely transient, it is difficult for schools to provide the same level of service compared to more balanced, stable neighborhoods. The question I have is, will this property make the neighborhood more transient or less transient? And I think I don't think it will. It's going to make it more transient by definition. So it's against that part of, it's against number 1. The overall design of the project includes the scale, mass, and site plan to enhance the appearance of the project site and surrounding natural built environment. It doesn't look anything like anything further down this street. It's 10 feet off of the sidewalk. Everything else on this street is 30 feet off of the sidewalk. It's a multifamily looking blocky building. It doesn't look anything else like the projects further down on the project, or down on the street. That's the same for number 3. It's smack up right against the sidewalk. I don't know where else in the city we let buildings be built 10 feet back from the sidewalk, except maybe in the form-based code areas where we're expecting to have more density than that. But this is not it. This is getting out of the form-based code area and moving into the residential area. And then the number 8, allowing greater surveillance of the street by people inside the buildings and elsewhere. This is suddenly blocking, if the other buildings are 30 feet back and this is 10 feet back, there's 20 feet that it's now blocking that you're not gonna be able to see from a major street. I don't feel like this is right. I don't feel like it conforms to those areas of the review criteria.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the board, if I may add, or I can add to Charlotte's comments on our review criteria whenever it's appropriate for me to respond to that.
Well, unless there's any other board member comments right now, it would be nice if you could expand on that, Mr. Rapia.
Okay. Chair, members of the board, starting with the criteria, number 1, as to whether the proposal conforms to the general plan. If you look at chapter 16 of the general plan, and I'm going to read the specific sentence, it says that the zoning ordinance describes the permitted development on each parcel of property. The ordinance establishes permitted land uses and the appropriate location, size, and height of structures, among other factors. So the zoning on the property is RM2 and limited commercial, LC, is a zoning that determines the use on the property. And in this case, the use being requested tonight is multifamily and commercial uses. Those are allowed or permitted by right in the zoning district, and the general plan actually speaks to that. So that use conforms to the general plan. In terms of the site design, looking at the mass and scale, how that is determined is based on the setback requirements that are on the property. As Charlotte described in her presentation, the request before you conforms with the setbacks and the height, which is appropriate based on the zoning standard that is used to establish those scale massing on the property. So based on this, in addition, there is a reason why we have the development incentive permits. Those are specific for infill developments, and so you have to look at that specifically. And that is a requirement in the zoning ordinance. So as part of that, they went to the Board of Adjustment and got that approval, which makes it consistent with the zoning ordinance. In terms of who is going to live on the property, the request before you is multifamily. The request before you is not who is going to live in that building. So that's what you should be considering. And in addition, there is a portion of the property that is actually zone LC, which allows even higher intensity uses beyond what is being requested. And that zoning designation, because it was placed on the property, is under the presumption that that use or LC is really appropriate at that location. So based on these requirements, that's how staff came to the conclusion to recommend approval before you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Apia. And the Board of Adjustment, I'm sure, analyzed this quite significantly. Development incentive permits aren't just stamped approval, everybody gets one. There's criteria that has to be met for anyone to just apply for a DIP, let alone get one approved. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Apia.
You are correct.
I feel like that's still, I don't know that they're looking at all the same criteria that we're looking at. That sometimes things will go over to them and then they'll go over to the design review and then they'll go over there and then we end up with it and stuff goes in that should not go in by the general plan. Stuff goes in that does not enhance the neighborhood. Someone has to say no. And if the other ones didn't, then we have to be the ones that say no. When this doesn't conform, when this doesn't fit in the neighborhood, when this adds transients to a neighborhood.
Can I?
Yes.
I just want to make a couple of comments. I think some of the discussion is getting off topic from the site plan, but as far as it meeting the general plan, I believe it does. And the intent, not every policy and everything within the general plan will be able to make every site. They kind of work together to be, depending on it. I wouldn't say that the general plan is insisting that you don't have areas of transients or different things like that, because my problem would be with the way you're interpreting it would be then you would never be able to approve apartments or higher density residential. And I don't think that was the intent of the general plan. Just like in the zoning code and the general plan, you look at the intent of why it was written. The 10-foot setbacks, I believe, I think they fit with the site actually, because if you'll see on the site plan, there's actually probably closer to 30 feet from the sidewalk. It's due to the Broadway right away. So there's more space there. And Pioneer, and you're looking across the street, you're starting to get some more pedestrian activity. And I'm looking at the properties surrounding the site as well. And it's getting a lot more, as you go east and west, you're seeing more of they might be single family homes, but they are being used for other commercial or probably home occupations. So I feel that the site plan is meeting with the character of the area and the requirements of the zoning code, which is what we are evaluating here, and the building code. So for that, I feel that this meets those requirements. And while it may not meet exactly every portion of the general plan, it meets the intent of the general plan.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from any board members? I do have a comment card that I would like to read into the record if everybody's done it this time with any questions of staff. So it's a little different with our virtual meetings, but I'm essentially opening up for public comment, even though I believe there's just the one comment. So again, I'm just reading this for the record. It is for a gentleman named Daryl Perry. There's no address provided. The card says that he's in opposition, and I'll just read the card for the record. Number one, I object because the proposed garbage pickup is too close to my property at 434 South Pioneer. Sorry, there's the address. Causing noise and attracting pests. Two, I object to two-story because it blocks the view and no other two stories are nearby. Number 3, I do not want high density population there because they attract crime and heavy traffic. For both of my tenants at that location, do not want a neighbor in such close proximity. I would not be opposed to a one-story development at that location. And I just want to confirm with our staff, that's the only comment card that's been received, correct?
Chair, that's correct.
And I'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to respond to that comment card and perhaps respond to some of the board member comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Ralph Pugh. I'd like to just confirm and agree with what the staff has said in their response to the questions raised this afternoon. And if I could get someone to move the staff's exhibit or the PowerPoint back to one of the very first slides that shows the surrounding zoning. Perfect. Can you find that one, John, on our screen? Okay. So I just would like to reiterate this whole concept and idea that somehow this multifamily use is out of place and will contribute to the transitory nature of the area. I would invite all of you to please look at that exhibit. Everything in gold, well over 100 acres. I'd hate to calculate how many. That entire area is multifamily and is planned for multifamily. And over the years, it may evolve into that. And so we're trying to do what we can on this arterial intersection of Broadway and start high quality development along the Broadway Road corridor, because as we learned in this case, quite frankly, the engineering staff is beginning their Broadway Road improvement efforts, which require dedication of additional right-of-way and enhancements on Broadway. And frankly, this is the first property that we're aware of east of Mesa Drive in that effort to improve the Broadway corridor, to begin with a development incentive permit and to do something new and different and upgrading the area. And we're proud of it, and we urge your support of this case tonight, board members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pugh.
Can I still say something, Michelle?
Yeah, did you have a question for the applicant?
It's a comment.
Okay.
If you look at this same map that Mr. Pugh just showed us, and remember what the city code says, the general plan, when a neighborhood population is largely transient, it is difficult for schools to provide the same level of service compared to more balanced, stable neighborhoods. The goal is to make this all multifamily. Then we are further killing the schools that are serving this area. So I think the idea that all of this is supposed to go to multifamily is completely wrong and 100% opposite of what's said in the general plan.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any questions of staff or anything? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Chair, members of the board will be happy to answer any other questions that the board have for staff.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
I move that we deny this application. Do I need to read out the whole thing on it? Let's see where I have it written down.
Pugh, if a motion is made to deny, does it not need some specific reasons why, based on the criteria for site plan review?
My computer froze.
Madam Chair, if Board Member Boyle could read into the record his motion referring to the case, and if he has any reasons why, that would be great. But he needs to at least state the case.
Yeah, I'm trying to track down where I have the thing on here. Just a minute. Okay, so I move that we deny the application for ZON 20-00037, District 4, within the 500 block of East Broadway Road, south side, and within the 400 block of South Pioneer West Side, on a provision that it does not conform to the general plan of the city of Mesa, and that it does not meet the criteria specified in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, there's a motion to deny KZON 20-00037. Is there a second? Okay. So if there is no second, then correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Apia, but that motion dies.
That's correct.
Is there any other?
I'll make a motion to approve ZON 20-00037 within the 500 block of East Broadway Road and within the 400 block of South Pioneer, located east of Mesa Drive on the south side of Broadway Road for site plan review. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
There is a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
This is Deanna, second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve. We have a second. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote so we can see where we land on this. Vice Chair Astle,
Yes, hoping that we take a look at those elevations, but yes.
Board Member Sarkisian,
Yes.
Board Member Boyle,
No.
Board Member Allen,
Yes.
Board Member Villanueva Saucedo,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So the motion passes with Board Member Boyle voting no.
Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you. I believe since there's no items remaining on the agenda, that I can ask for a motion to adjourn. If someone could do that?
So moved.
Is there?
Second.
Okay, thank you. I'll do a roll call vote for this one as well. Vice Chair Astle,
Yes.
Board Member Sarkisian,
Yes.
Board Member Boyle,
I'll finally vote yes on something today.
Board Member Allen,
Yes.
Board Member Villanueva Saucedo.
Yes.
I vote yes, and Board Member Crockett is absent. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.